She doesn't even go here.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk.
And
Hockey.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 63, our playoff preview of Stick Talk Hockey. As always, I'm your host, Tiko. This is my co-host.
I'm yours truly.
And the playoffs are here. It feels like Christmas morning.
Does it ever? This is only what we've been counting down for the last, 4 weeks?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Since deadline?
I've just been sitting around twiddling my thumbs, looking at my watch. When's it going to start?
I've been just keeping my eyes on the wild card, too, for so long, I forgot the playoffs were a thing.
Yeah. This is Washington's Stanley Cup. Yeah.
Get out of here. Also, Detroit should be in the cup and not Washington.
Yeah, I guess, you know what? Actually, we can kind of talk about that just a little bit. The Tortorella thing.
God damn it, Torts.
I mean, look, people are very upset. Torts didn't know what the score was. He didn't know that they were already mathematically eliminated when he pulled the goalie at even strength, right? In turn, Washington scores the empty netter goal, effectively eliminating 3 teams at once. RIP. Goodbye, Detroit. And Washington makes the playoffs. But, I mean, look. I don't know. It was 30 seconds after Detroit tied the game.
Yeah, it was pretty close. You can't really hold Torts. It's just fun to yell at him.
I get that. I totally get that. But, I don't know. It was so close that it was I don't really blame him for still thinking they need that 2 points, you know?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's the mentality he's been trying to instill in these guys all year, is to keep fighting no matter what. So,
yeah.
I mean, what would he look like if he just tucked his tail at the last second of the season? It was
Yeah.
We weren't going to make it, so, Yeah, I mean, it's sending a message one way or another. So I don't hold Torts accountable, really. I more so what I hold accountable is this terrible stats breakdown. How are we allowing Washington to get in above Detroit when Detroit has one more regular season win than them?
Regulation win.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that's been a big talking point, and for a good reason, I think.
They're tied in points.
Yeah, but Detroit has more wins, and that doesn't change the outcome. I don't really. I can't say that I'm on board with that.
I don't even understand it. I've tried to understand it.
Yeah.
I think I just refuse to.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's insane. I feel for all the Detroit fans out there.
I do as well. We kind of deserve to see them in the playoffs. I think we would have gotten the original 6 matchup, New York and Detroit. Tragic.
That would have been a good one too.
Yeah. But you know what? It's all said and done now. It's over. It looks like, hey, sooner or later we're getting a play-in series.
We better.
So this will change.
We better. Especially if they're doing the expansion.
Yeah. Once they add another 2 teams, which it looks like they're going to, I mean, you already have less than half the league make the playoffs now. It's the fewest percentage of teams making the playoffs that the NHL's ever had.
Yep.
They will expand this.
I should hope so, especially because it's 2 now, but I've heard they're talking about adding 4. Which would bring us to a 36-team league?
Yep. There's talks of it.
So, it's time for a play-in round.
Yeah, 100%.
And we've been talking about shortening the season anyways. The games are, the season's too long, the games aren't meaningful. Let's make a play-in series. Take some of those end-of-season games and make them play-ins.
Yeah, see, the thing is right now, for me, the reason I'm for a play-in series, I don't really care about the league revenue, which is what the NHL cares about, right? You add 2 more games, you add revenue to the league. Sure. But for me, you had 2 kind of groups of games that mattered at the end of the season here, right? You had your wild card games where those games mattered, and then you had kind of your top of the lineup, win the division or President's Trophy that kind of mattered.
Right.
But those like teams locked into like second, third, and or like the 1, 2, 3 spots in the playoffs, you wouldn't see the resting and coasting you saw at the end of the season from those teams
No, 100%.
with a play-in, you know?
I absolutely agree. I think that like if you're too safe or if you're out of it completely, like the last quarter of the season's meaningless,
Yeah.
and it sucks as a fan.
Yeah, 100%.
I aside from the wild card 2 games, which I keep talking about, didn't care about anything that was being played.
Yeah, it didn't
Like-
matter. It didn't
like,
matter.
You can frame it as a playoff preview. Yeah, that's great, but like everyone's trying to just not get hurt.
Yeah, I mean the Vancouver Jets game was like, I don't know, what are we doing here? You know, like that game should have mattered.
It should have. It's 2 great teams at the end of the season.
And it was literally like every fan from both teams walked away from that game not caring about the score at all and going, oh, nobody got hurt. That's a win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's garbage.
But-
Garbage time.
The playoffs are here.
Thank God.
Let's get into it.
I'm ready.
First round. Let's start in the East.
Okay.
A tale as old as time.
Oh, classic.
Boston, Toronto.
How you feeling, Toronto fans?
0-6 matchup. The Demon Toronto didn't get to slay last year.
True.
They got out of the first, but they didn't play the big bad Bruins.
No, they didn't.
And now here we are.
And the Bruins are still in good form, too. So if they slay the Bruins this time, it'll still count for something.
Absolutely. They may not have Bergeron. You know, it may be a slightly different look team from the Bruins that they faced the last time they played them. However, this team, I mean, they still ran the league for a lot of this year. They're just imposing on all levels, right? And
even we talked about it earlier this season, even though Bergeron's not there, the culture of this room hasn't changed. So
No.
it's still fundamentally the same type of team you're playing, even if there's been roster turnover.
yeah, they still play largely the same way.
100%.
They still have, you know, Captain Brad, now Captain Brad.
King Rat.
The King Rat, indeed. David Pasternak. I mean, there's been so much talk about how the Leafs mentally can't handle the Bruins.
And I believe it.
Yeah.
I still believe it. You know? Like, I look at this team and I go, like, what did they do to get better?
Yeah.
And they did get better, but I don't think they got better in the ways they needed to win a playoff series.
See, in a lot of respects, I agree. I don't think that they got themselves closer to a cup with their moves last offseason.
Right.
But I think they might have gotten themselves closer to getting past the Bruins, oddly.
Kind of agree.
Like the Tyler Bertuzzi ad.
That's the one I have my eye on as well. I was wondering if he's going to make the Bruins regret not signing him.
I'm wondering that too.
He played well for him.
Yeah. I mean, this is such an interesting matchup. I mean, regardless of the history here, which obviously is very important context, but these teams are just like polar opposites. You know, like Toronto is the team that kind of like almost looks better on paper than they do on the ice, even though they look great on the ice. Like they have like the most stacked top of the lineup, right? You have Austin Matthews, you have John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Nylander, who is out but doesn't look like it'll be for long. Even like Matthew Nyes and Max Domi, and then you have no goalie and a very questionable D group. Whereas Boston is the opposite, the team that like doesn't look like they should be good on paper.
Yeah, they don't look like they should be a scoring threat the way they are. Or they shouldn't be contending the way they are.
But they just are. And they have the elite goalie tandem.
The probably the best knockout 1-2 punch you have back there 100%. Right now.
But, I mean, as we saw last year, they couldn't figure out how to use that last year.
No, they couldn't, which is unfortunate.
Maybe they've learned their lesson. You got to hope they're going to try something else.
I feel like Boston's going to run the 50% split instead of trying to just give the crease to someone in the playoffs.
Well, they should.
Because that's
what they did all year.
Yeah, and it looked great. And
Yeah.
they kept picking up wins.
And maybe that'll work, but then maybe like who knows if that'll work too? Like we haven't really seen that work in the playoffs.
No, I think that's because a lot of teams second guess themselves.
Totally.
They get the fire on their heels and then they start reaching for the quickest source of water without, remembering their game plan.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, it's so ingrained in how we think of the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? You get the hot goalie, you ride him to the finals. We've seen it over and over and over and over again. So I totally get the temptation to do that. But it's hard for me to also say, well, the dead split 1-2, 1-2 will work because
we don't know yet.
We don't know yet. Yeah, we haven't seen it.
It puts you in a bad spot as a coach if you have a goalie who put up a shutout in game 1 and then you don't run him in game 2 and you lose 5-0. It's like,
yeah, like that's just it. I do not envy a coach that has to deal with that.
No, I would much sooner, if I was in a coaching position, just for my own job security, have an elite goalie and then just kind of backup. Like Winnipeg's decision is made. It's made. That's easy.
Yeah.
No one's going to blink twice when you're like, Hellebuck is playing every game.
Yeah, 100%. But then you run into like now it's like we how many times this year have we talked about rest for goalies, right?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he's one of those goalies that was above the 60 game mark on your list, right?
Connor Hellebuck, yeah, he's at 60 on the dot, I believe. Third most worked goalie in the league, 60 games.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that actually because I have notes for that.
That's a whole other series.
Yeah. Significant adds, I guess, like we could talk about that. Toronto has added Ryan Reeves this season. Significantly something.
I mean, like if he's able to actually pick his spots and be out there for the right moments, it might do you some favors against the Bruins, but like, how often have we seen like something happen and he's just on the bench?
Yeah, I mean, this dude could honestly, he's the ship sinker.
That's so funny.
Tyler Bertuzzi, Max Domi, those are both ads for them as well, right?
$2 million anchor.
Yeah, Labushkin, who's been playing on their top unit with Morgan Riley. We'll see. I mean, Boston's added Pat Maroon. Big bad Pat.
I hate Pat Maroon.
Yeah.
That more than anything, Pat Maroon is why I hope the Bruins fail.
Yeah.
I don't have them winning this series, or I don't have Toronto winning this series, but I so hope they do.
Yeah.
As much as it's fun to laugh at Leaf fans and be like, it's the joke's kind of ran
Leafs.
its course, know.
Yeah.
Let's get this monkey off your back.
Yeah, it's gotta be that time. I mean, it's gonna be a crazy series. There's just no two ways about it. I mean, the fans in both arenas will be chaos, right? TD Garden and whatever the name is of Toronto's arena now. Is it Scotiabank? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm ready to bring my pick in for this one.
Yeah, I was going to ask really quick, outside of like the obvious scoring threats, who do you have as like a sleeper from each team that's going to be like a series changer?
Right. That's a great question, actually. Well, first of all, I think that this series for Boston kind of rides on the play of Pasternak.
100%.
There's
As
a few teams with this elite winger where it's like they will go as far as that player takes them. I think Boston here. I think the Rangers with Panarin. And I think the Lightning with Kucherov.
Yep. Okay.
So, I mean, Pasternak obviously is the biggest one here. But honestly, I'm interested to see how Trent Frederick looks.
Really?
I don't know what it is, but I think some people would say Pat Maroon down on the fourth line there because he's been just the playoff guy repeatedly. I don't know. I just get a feeling about it.
As much as I agree with some people that Pat Maroon might be like a big changer in the contrast of the series and how it's played between whistles,
Yeah.
I don't really think that he's going to have like an impact in the play,
No.
which is more what this question is.
No.
Kind of on the same vibe as you, though. For Boston, I'll take Morgan Geekie.
Yeah.
I think that having a really potent third line center is just so essential.
It's very true.
And if this line is able to get going, they're going to be something to reckon with.
Yeah.
Geekie's had flashes of brilliance already this season, many times.
Many times.
So, yeah, I think that he could rise to the occasion and make some big-time, big-moment moves.
Yeah. Over in Toronto, for me, a big one is kind of the same one that it was last year. Matthew Nyes.
Yeah.
I think, we've seen the big dogs actually play well. I think they get overhated in terms of, that they have this kind of reputation as being guys that disappear in the playoffs, right? Matthews and Marner and all of that.
Yep.
I think that they're all going to be great, as they were last year as well.
They've grown up a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know. I think one of the guys that could really tilt this series is having Matthew Nyes play, basically make that second line feel like a top line, right?
Yeah, being the extra punch that makes aging Tavares not an asterisk anymore.
Yeah.
Kind of adds that step back into it, or the explosiveness that you're lacking right now. Because, you look at this line and it's like, Marner's a huge threat, but like with Tavares being a step behind where he was a few years ago, you could handle it until Nyes comes barreling through, and that guy's fast.
Yeah, he is.
And he gets into the dirty areas. So I was going to take Nyes, but since you took Nyes, I'm actually going to go for a totally different type of take.
Yep.
I'm going to take Jake McCabe. And
very interesting.
Not on like a scoring thing.
Yeah.
Strictly on a lockdown play.
Right.
Type thing. Like the way that he plays with that second line and managing the ice is going to be so essential.
Yeah.
Because like the first line is going to be the first line. That just is what it is. But having a capable and dependable second line that you're not going to be gritting your teeth every time they're out there.
Yeah.
I think how Jake McCabe, especially handling the rush, is going to be a big difference maker.
For sure. Okay, you want to get some picks in?
Yeah, you want to go first?
Sure. For me, I got the Leafs in 7.
Wow.
I'll tell you. I at the end of the day, the way Toronto generates high danger chances, it's way above Boston.
Yep, this is true.
Good goaltending. Boston obviously has in their favor. But, I mean, we have a 70-goal scorer and, some of the most electric offensive threats in the league here. The way Toronto's looked the last few months to me when I've gotten to watch them has been nothing but dangerous.
Phenomenal.
I love to see a demon exercised. I got Toronto in 7.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm a pessimist.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Boston in 6. If there's one thing that Boston knows more than any team, if there's one thing, that culture, that roster, everything about how that team's built, it's just how to score the dirty garbage goals late in the game or late in the frame in the second that just changes the entire momentum.
Sure.
I've just seen it too much to not think it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
And as much as we weren't picking anyone from the top 3 scorers from the team for like obvious favorites, I think Marchand's going to have such a massive footprint in how this game and this series goes.
Yeah.
I would bet that he scores at least 2 or 3 on the doorstep, and they're going to be just commotion, clutter, yard sales.
Big timers.
Yeah, and it's going to be huge, but it's also going to be ugly.
Yeah.
So I got Boston in 6. I just think that Toronto, at the end of the day, doesn't have the grit to push Boston away from the high danger chances.
Right. All right. We're gonna get producer Jonesy in on these takes as well. What you got to say for us, Jay?
Howdy, y'all. I also have a 7-game series,
Very nice.
but I'll be siding with the Bruins
Bruins at home in Game 7.
again. I look at the Leafs D-core, and I look at Morgan Riley, Ilias Labushkin, Simone Bennett, Joel Edmondson,
Yeah.
and I cringe a little bit
Yeah.
because per money puck, the Leafs are 30th in high danger shots against.
Yeah. Porous.
And you got the goaltending
Yeah.
mismatch.
Yeah.
We'll see how Boston runs their 2 goalies, but I got to go with the Bruins here.
Boston in 7. Okay.
That's a great point too. I was also going to say I don't think that Samsonov has the sauce to really close out those Boston skirmishes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a lot.
It takes a special type of goalie to like do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's like low-key as overrated as I as a Devils fan can sort of agree that Broder's a little bit overrated. Little bit. But if there's one thing that guy was
maybe
so good at, it was those yard sale scrambles in the playoffs. Like
closing them out late.
how many highlight reel, just desperation, dive, whirly bird, stack the pad, nonsensical saves does he have?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't see Samsonov doing that.
Fair enough. All right, let's move to the other series in the Atlantic here. Our number 1 spot in the Atlantic went to the Florida Panthers this year. That means they're playing the wild card one. The Battle of Florida is here. Once again, Florida-Tampa.
The only deserving wild card in the East.
Yeah, pretty much. This one, I mean, this is going to be a great series as well. We have 2 teams that, I mean, they're big. They can score. They have great goaltending. They have the rivalry of being in the same state, going against each other. This should be a banger series.
I'm so excited because I just feel like the Battle of Florida's been so stale for so long.
Yeah.
But it has the potential to be so good.
Yeah, I think
and
the
so
last
personal.
time, I think the last time they went at it, it was good.
It was good, but like it could be a continuous personal geographical rivalry the same way that we see Edmonton Calgary.
For sure.
But it's
for sure.
The teams have just been so on different levels evidently for so long that it hasn't been. But I think this is the first time we can look at both of these teams and go, it might be a coin toss.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, both of them made some additions this year, right? Tampa Bay brought in Anthony Duclair. It's a big one for them. Obviously, the Florida Panthers bring in Batty Vladdy, Big Tarasenko, the Tarasenko show, if you will. There's a lot to like here. I mean, with the goaltending battle will be really interesting because Vasilevsky's been decidedly average in his last couple playoff appearances.
Yeah, but you have to also follow that with he's played really well coming off injury.
He has.
He's played incredibly well.
Yeah. I mean, he's not like leading the league in anything.
No, but he's
played
definitely
good.
He's the reason that the Tampa Bay Lightning have as many points as they do.
But Bobrovsky's also been fantastic this year.
Yeah, and see, that's the cool thing about this series, too, is that for so long, whenever we talk about a Florida series, we're always like, oh, Bobrovsky, he's old, this, that, age, and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Vasilevsky's getting up there now, too.
Yep.
That's not really a conversation point that I'm buying.
Yeah, I mean, both of them, they're both in their 30s now, right?
Yeah, and Vasilevsky just had surgery last season.
Yeah.
So that adds wear, tear, and age.
100%.
Would you take a 34-year-old goalie who hasn't had surgery in the last 8 years, or the 31-year-old who's had surgery last year?
Right. Now, there's another aspect here where Bobrovsky's one of the most worked goalies in the league. And I think, personally, one of the reasons that they went on that run last year is because Bobrovsky was so rested.
Yeah, and the savior, Alex the Lion.
Yeah.
who just seems to like put teams on his back.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of fell apart for him there at the end of Detroit, but
Alex Lyon is like the Forrest Gump of the NHL.
yeah, that's valid.
and his teams are Lieutenant Dan. They're like, leave me.
Yeah.
Leave me.
I mean, by the skin of his teeth, Bobrovsky didn't hit the 60-game mark, but he did play 58 as a 35-year-old goaltender.
Still too much.
I personally don't think it will have the biggest effect this round. I think he will be as good as he's been this season. I mean, he's posted a 915 all year. In this first round, I think it'll come back to bite Florida in the second round, but if they get there. But, I mean, it should be quite the goaltending battle. It really should be. And, I mean, Vasilevsky, he was hurt to start the year. He's still got 50 games in.
Yeah. I mean, he was hurt to start the year, and he like I said, played a lot of those meaningful games down the stretch that really bought Tampa the runway that they had.
Yep.
Because they were kind of doing a little skip into the playoffs at a certain point.
Yeah.
So, just off that alone, I kind of want to give the edge to Tampa because goaltending is really going to be an essential in this series.
Yeah, but I mean, Bobrovsky's played better than Vasilevsky this year.
Yeah, but I would say Tampa has a bigger scoring threat.
Yeah, and Tampa's been also, like, to be fair, they've been more porous defensively, right? Like, I mean, a goalie's only as good as his defense is.
Yeah, and I mean, they've had a lot of really unfortunate injuries, to say the least.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, what do we got here for saved above expected stats? Where do the two of them sit? Bobrovsky sits at 6th. So Jonesy just hit us with the stat here. Since November 24th, which was Andrei Vasilevsky's season debut, he's played more games than any other goaltender, 52 games played. That's 3 more than UC Saros. And, I mean, if you look here at this goals saved above expected chart, I mean, Bobrovsky ranks 6th. Vasilevsky ranks 62nd.
really?
Yeah, I mean, he's in a category here with Nico Dawes and Phoenix Copley.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
Really? Because every time I watched a Tampa game, he looked amazing.
He has looked good. I mean, I think that there's some woes with their defense happening, right? I mean, and Sergachev is out for the round. That's a big one.
I think the biggest issue is that the predictability is gone from the defense, which is like the biggest thing.
I mean, this decor, man, it doesn't scare me. I mean, Victor Hedman, he's still Victor Hedman. He hasn't been quite at the caliber he was a couple years ago when they won the Cup, but I mean, like, he's still really good. And they bring in Matt Dumba, who honestly is, honestly. And then, I mean, you got Nick Perbix here, Emil Lilleberg, Darren Radish. This D group.
Yeah, this is tough.
I mean, they have, like, don't get me wrong, Kucherov, this is a bit of a special teams battle too, right? You have the most efficient power play in the league against a team that's had a great penalty kill this year.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, it'll just come down to the depth of scoring.
Yeah.
Like, because, the goaltenders, it's kind of moot.
Yeah.
You got Vasilevsky, who's a playoff wizard. He may have been struggling a little bit, but, his defense has been, like you just mentioned, meh. So it's really going to come down to who has the most scoring power and who's actually, like, the real deal.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a few people exposed as frauds in this series.
That'll be, like, a really interesting storyline to watch. Like, can Matthew Tkachuk be the world beater that he looked like last postseason? Same with even Sam Bennett, honestly.
Yeah, and Reinhart
as well. And I mean, same thing on the other side with Kucherov. And I mean, like, even like when you look at Stamkos, Hedman, and Vasilevsky, can they re-spark that magic that walked them to 2 straight cups? You know?
Or are they just name brands?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So who you got in this?
Can you pull up the note, Jonesy? I can't remember what I put. I know I took Florida, but I got the Panthers in 7 in this one. Panthers are going to be at home for Game 7. I think this series goes the distance. I mean, at home is kind of a meh because, I mean, both teams will kind of be at home the entire series. There will be lots of fans of each teams in each building. But I think the series is going the long way. And I think the Panthers are going to close it out. They're a little bit bigger. I think their mean edge is going to do some damage. And I just like their D group and their goaltending a little bit more right now.
It's fair. That's fair.
What you got?
I think something that we didn't actually talk about that I'm gonna bring up slightly here in my prediction. I got the Lightning in 7.
Okay.
I agree. It's gonna go the distance. It's gonna be a duel, and it's gonna be juicy. But I think a big part of this is gonna come down to the coaching duel.
Yeah.
And if Cooper's able to actually stymie the Panthers,
I mean, Cooper, it's hard to bet against him.
if there's anyone who could, I would bet it's him.
Yeah.
Even with the makeshift D group they have back there.
Right.
There's a lot you can do to shift your game plan to ease the pressure off your defense and not leave them so high and dry.
Right.
Especially when you have the scoring threats you do in Kucherov, Stamkos.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I mean, at the end of the day, we'll see which secret weapon becomes the series decider here. And I think, you look at this battle between Matthew Tkachuk, the kind of guy who's been a little bit underwhelming for a lot of people this year, but was a world beater last year, and your possible Hart finalist or Hart winner in Kucherov.
Yeah. And a bunch of guys who know how to just suffocate the air out of the neutral zone.
Yeah.
They create turnovers.
Yeah, that's so true. Producer Jay, what you got for this one?
I will be taking the Florida Panthers in 6. I look at Tampa's D-core, and honestly, I don't think they have a single shutdown pairing.
Yeah.
I think every pairing can get exposed.
Yeah.
I look at the third lines, Lustrain and Lundell, Erod versus Easymont, Paul, and Chafee.
Michael Chafin.
I think that's a big mismatch there.
Yeah.
And I do think the goaltending's essentially a wash. So
Panthers in 6.
Panthers in 6.
I like it. All right, moving into the Metro. Metro 1 winning not just their division, but the President's Trophy. We have the New York Rangers against the minus 5 million goal differential team, the Washington Capitals. Washington's, they're going to have their work cut out for them here.
You don't deserve to be here.
I mean, look.
She doesn't even go here.
Yeah, pretty much, right? I'm not convinced that the Rangers are a real threat. Hey, look, maybe I have a little bit of something going on here.
A little bias, maybe.
If you guys have been listening to this podcast since we did this last season, I got burned so bad by the Rangers last year. I will never forgive them. I still believe that they're fraudulent. And the scary thing is, this series can't convince me that they're not.
See, that's the thing, too, is like this is the Rangers series to lose entirely.
100%.
And if they do, oh, God, if they do, there's going to be some changes to be had. Like, there's no way you can lose this series with this roster and the money spent.
You can't lose this series.
No, you can't. And I don't think they will.
No, I don't think so either.
But I wanted to preface this with there will be an absolute fire strike on this roster if there is a slip up in the playoffs here in the first round.
Blow it up.
Yeah.
Blow it up if you can't get past the Washington Capitals in 2024 as a President's Trophy winning team.
Yeah. And I mean, the Rangers, as much as I hate the Rangers, and this is going to pain me, I don't like this segment. But God, they look good. Trocheck has found like an entirely different level. Yeah. He's stapled to Panarin, and they've been lights out all year. Yeah. Lafreniere's game has just come out of a cannon.
Yeah, this could be a potentially huge breakout moment for him.
And they got Rempe now, and I don't like Rempe's game. I think he's irresponsible. I think he's kind of a bum, but he's huge. And I mean,
huge.
He does the dirty, nasty playoff stuff you need. And I mean, as long as it's only a game ejection that he's taking.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, if he's getting ejected, like, and not putting the team down for 5 minutes, that's okay. But like, you don't want to play full playoff series with 11 forwards.
I was going to say, you also don't want to leave your bench short early. Like, as much as you want to set a tone and set an example, like, yeah, I don't know. I think he's going to be a big liability, honestly. I think there might be some big growing pains.
Especially as a rookie, you get those jitters in the postseason. That could be a potential sink shipper for them. But, yeah, I mean, the Capitals, look, you made it in. Ovi's chasing greatness. That's fantastic. I mean, look, they have a Stanley Cup winning goaltender, right? They got Darcy Kemper in there. Shout out to Darcy. You're going to lose that battle against Shesterkin, I believe. Connor McMichael as your number one center is really tough to swallow playing this Rangers team.
Yeah, whoa. Woof.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
I'm kind of shocked they don't have Dylan Strome up there, to be honest, but
I feel like, I don't know, maybe this lines thing is a little weird because I feel like they get moved around a little bit.
yeah, I feel like this can't be quite right.
But, I mean, Backstrom's obviously on IR for till infinity. Ethan Bear's still out.
Yeah, Sandin is out as well. That's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple gaps in this lineup. I don't like the replacement on Sandin.
And honestly, I don't actually mind this roster. You have Alex Ovechkin up top. Obviously, we all know who Alex Ovechkin is. Tom Wilson can still be a game changer in the playoffs for you.
Absolutely.
I'm a big Hendrix Lapierre guy. I got him in that Fantrax league. I'm a big fan of him.
I have a soft spot for Sonny Milano. I don't know what it is, but
sure, Max Pacioretty, if he can, keep his game up. Like, there's a lot to like about this roster on paper, especially with Kemper backing them up. But I mean, they just haven't looked good all year.
See,
They've been so up and down.
and the thing is that they just have such a hard time sticking to their game plan and executing it. It looks, when you tune into a Capitals game, it just looks like they're swimming in it.
Yeah, they look like a different team every time you turn them on.
Yeah, and they're usually trying to paddle upstream through the white water.
Yeah.
Very, very seldom does it look like they're actually controlling and manipulating a game to their comfort. It looks like they're playing whoever's game they're playing against to try and survive, and they've just been lucky enough to survive into the playoffs.
For sure.
But when you talk about New York, this is a team that controls the flow, controls the entries. The neutral zone isn't free.
Yeah.
All of the paint, like 10 feet outside of the crease, is not free.
Yeah.
You got like all these massive defensemen that are just going to make you pay every single time.
I mean, look, the Rangers' bottom six is very suspect. Very, very suspect. I'm like I said, I'm not sold on that team, especially like as a President's Trophy winning team. I'm like, how did you guys do that? But
I think Wenberg's underrated though. Like,
I like Alex Wenberg. I got no problem with that, sure. But I don't know. Like, I just don't think I can be convinced otherwise in this series, especially if it goes longer. It's like, what are we doing? This should be a walk in the park for the Rangers. It better be.
Fair. It should be. And I will say I do really like Jimmy Vesey as well, and that's probably a third liner on any other team, but understandably a fourth here. Who do you got for this one?
Well, pull it up, Jay. Yeah, this one I got the Rangers in 6. I even think that's a little long for this series, but I think the Capitals will get a couple games in here. I just think that, with their playoff experience and New York being suspect, I think Washington will get a couple, but I do think it'll be like a relatively quick 6. You know how there's like some 6-game series that look like they could have been 4?
Yes.
And some that look like they could have been
7.
gone forever.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this will be one that looks like it could have gone for quicker, but ends up being Rags in 6.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm pretty much on the same train. I'm taking Rags in 5, and that's strictly off of how well Lindgren's played in net.
Yeah.
He's overworked. He's been, absolutely ridden into the playoffs, but I mean, he's been pulling out some really impressive wins against some really impressive teams. Washington had one of the hardest schedules coming down to the wire as far as this wild card race was concerned, and he kept picking up wins. I can't explain it, but it happened. I'm giving him at least one.
Yep.
But it's Rags all the way. Yeah. Jay?
I also got the Rangers in 6 games. I think that Charlie Lindgren, he's riding a heater. He may be able to steal a game or two, but it'll be a quick one.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with that. Sticking to our final game in the East here, Metro Division, M3, we got the New York Islanders. They kind of squeak into an actual playoff spot. Really kind of interesting team against Carolina Hurricanes, one of the big dogs. They've been knocking on the door for a lot of years now. They go out and do what we talked about. They bring in the big dog. They bring in Jake Gensel.
They finally did it. They let them nuts hang.
Exactly. They just said, you know what? We can't live like this anymore. And this is another one. This one I don't think is quite as like it's not quite the walk in the park that I think the Rangers Caps should be. But I think you're nuts if you were to take the Islanders in this series,
I agree. Although I will say, I will preface this with saying that if there was a series that was going to be an upset,
a big upset,
it would be this one.
That's totally fair.
I think that this team's super untested as far as like the Canes are concerned.
Yeah.
They've had some success, but like the playoff maturity that we've talked about seeing grow in the Leafs, we haven't so much seen it here. There's a lot of new pieces. Again, it's their series to lose, but if there was a team to lose it to, it's probably the Islanders, who are so structurally sound.
Like they're kind of in that like Boston mold of just like they keep playing that way,
Yeah, and they just like wear you down.
Yeah, they do.
They're annoying. They
have so much playoff experience too on that roster.
Yeah, absolutely. And they know where to be when the time's right. Like it's just such an opportunistic roster. They just seem to know how to squeak out those 3-2 games.
Yeah.
Like if this series gets ugly and slows down, then it's going to be very tough.
Scary. And I mean, the Islanders, they kind of have the edge in goal, right? They have Ilya Sorokin, and the Carolina Hurricanes have Freddie Anderson. But Freddie Anderson's played really well, and Ilya Sorokin hasn't really played all that well.
And Anderson has only played 25 games. Like he's fresh as a daisy because he missed half the season.
That's actually like a really big one for Carolina as a whole.
And he wasn't rushed back because they have so many amazing goalie prospects right now.
I mean, hey, look, I'm excited to get to see Bo Horvat in the playoffs again. I think Bo Horvat is a beauty. Him playing with Barzal, that should be a lot of fun to watch, but I don't know how much they're going to be able to generate. So, yeah, I mean, we saw this last year, right? This series happened last season, and I see no reason that it should go any worse for Carolina, especially with their additions. You know what I mean? Than it did last time.
Yep, absolutely.
So, I mean, this is probably the quickest one for me to decide. I pretty much was like, well, what reason could there be for Carolina to lose this series? And I mean, Carolina, I have them going on a run. I mean, we'll get to our full brackets at the end here, but I mean, they did it, right?
Yeah.
They had a team that was knocking on the door, and they went and added the biggest piece there was.
They let their nuts hang.
Yeah.
They really did it. And that was always what we bashed them for is this lineup's good, but what else are you going to do?
Where's their guy?
And even like, we always talk about Gensel and the biggest piece, but like they also really let him hang on that Kuznetsov snag.
Kuzi.
And he's paid off great. He looks good there.
Let me see a playoff Eagle.
Right?
Let me see it.
And I mean, like, that kind of playoff
No.
experience that you're adding.
Jonesy's shaking his head. Jonesy doesn't want to see that.
Yeah, traumatized over there in his Penguins hat. Tough. Yeah, but I mean, that's another huge addition that I don't think gets talked about enough, and I think it's going to make a massive swing in this series.
Yeah, totally.
What's your series total on this?
We got the same one here, actually. I only picked it in this because I always like to pick one.
You are like me then.
Yeah, bring out the brooms.
Yeah, I feel like it's a rite of passage to predict one sweep.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to.
And be wrong about it.
Always.
It's a rite of passage. Yeah, bring out the brooms. I got Carolina in 4.
Same. Jay?
I got the Canes in 5. And I honestly think it'll be a pretty competitive series.
Yeah.
Last year it went 6, but that was when Sorokin was lights out, and the Hurricanes didn't have Jake Gensel.
Yeah, totally.
So I got the Hurricanes in 5 with Kuznetsov scoring 0 goals.
Wow, bitter.
A little hater moment. I like it.
I mean, yeah, this is a Hayden room. It's a hater type podcast, hater type beat.
Yeah. Okay, let's
Okay.
get to the West.
Let's jump into it. Splish splash.
The winner of the Pacific Division for the very first time, the Vancouver Canucks.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I am very, very excited to see this team back in the playoffs. And not like, especially after the last few years, it's not like this team is like hobbling in as a wild card team and like playing Vegas or something. They're favored to win this series against wild card 1, the Nashville Predators.
Yeah. And I mean, this series does make me a little bit nervous because
big time.
we've heard me in the last few pods talking about Nashville.
Yeah, you and Jonesy have been big on Nashville.
They're riding high right now, and you know what? They're still tearing it up, but I think that this is where the Cinderella story kind of comes crashing in. I think that reality is just, it's here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested. If you go back to that note, Jay, I see a lot of parallels between these two teams. Like, they have very similar builds, right? They have a lot of big defensemen on the back end.
Yep.
Led by a Norris candidate. Hughes will probably be the Norris winner, but Yossi will be up there.
Yep.
A potentially game-breaking goaltender between Saros and Demko.
It's soon to be elites, if
And
not already there.
Potentially the 1-2 in Jack Adams voting in Brunette and Rick Tocchet. I mean, this is going to be a very, very interesting series. And some classic hockey, I think. Like, you have a couple guys, too, actually, that are kind of vintage power forwards in a sense, too, in the way Ryan O'Reilly plays.
Yep.
And the way JT Miller plays.
Yeah.
With a big D group. I mean, this and elite goaltenders, like, this could be that hashtag vintage hockey series.
I have this series circled just because I'm so interested in seeing how JT Miller plays.
Yeah.
Because he's looked so good under Tocchet. He's just been completely awoken,
Yeah.
reinvigorated. I had so many bad things to say about him last year, and I take it all back because, damn, he looks good, and he is playing like a true hockey player now. He is leaving it all out there every shift.
It's actually been genuinely shocking. Like, the fact that they moved him to center and he's been not just productive. Like, first of all, he had his most productive season ever. He hit 100 points for the first time. He's a 100-point center.
Yeah.
And he's been their shutdown guy, right? In their 3 matchups this year, he's played all of his minutes basically against Ryan O'Reilly. He's played more minutes against Ryan O'Reilly than the other 3 centers combined.
Okay.
And he's won that matchup. I mean, Vancouver won all 3 games in the regular season against them, as much as the second half Nashville Predators are a lot different than the first half Nashville Predators were.
Yeah, they are. And that's what you have to be weary of.
Of course.
But also Saros has played 64 games.
Yeah.
And
He's
he's
played-
a small
he's played a ton.
goalie. He's an undersized goalie too.
Yeah.
And I don't want to bag on small goalies too much. It's a great story. Good for him.
Yeah.
But when you're in the playoffs, and we always go back to this, the garbage goals and the scrums and the yard sales,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not even about your goalie being good.
Right.
The reason that Vasilevsky won so many playoff games is because he's freaking massive.
Right.
How many times when they're in trouble does he just get as big as possible and hope it hits him in the traffic? And
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you
Yeah.
don't have that luxury with a smaller goalie, so you really need this elite defensive group to play defensively and play a strict perimeter.
Yeah.
And that's going to be tough against a Canucks team that looks this good and this fast and this willing to play physical in the dirty areas.
For sure.
Where they weren't like last year or
100%.
years prior.
I mean, you look at the additions, and both of these teams are also really interesting because they've changed their group so much this year, right? Ryan O'Reilly's a new addition for the Nashville Predators. You have Anthony Beauvillier, who is a deadline addition or deadline-ish addition. You have Luke Shen, who I am not looking forward to rooting against Luke Shen. I love Luke Shen.
Gustav Nyquist,
Nyquist, yeah, 100%.
who looked like a dead fish in Columbus
Yeah.
and is now having a fantastic career season. He's
fantastic, yeah.
He's like 32 and he's like hitting a new points total.
And then, I mean, you look at Vancouver and like how much turnover have they had? You have Ian Cole, who's been kind of, well, we'll see, but I don't even know if he'll play all that much. But Nikita Zadorov, that's a big boy that they brought in mid-season this year. Carson Soucy's a new ad who's been like a really underrated ad for them. He's been fantastic.
I really like Soucy.
Yeah,
Super underrated.
yeah. And then obviously up top you have Elias Lindholm, right?
Yeah, seeing Soucy scratched bothers me the way seeing that Andrew Peak scratched bothers me.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see it.
It shouldn't happen.
No,
It's
I
like
don't think you will.
On any other team, they should be playing, but just
This-
where they were undervalued.
This team's record when Soucy's in the lineup versus when he's not, it's pretty shocking, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what the stats are right now, but they win a lot more when he's in the lineup.
Damn. And I mean, Lindholm, you added Lindholm, and
Yeah.
Garland's looked sick.
He's been fantastic. I mean, he had a career high in points this season. Hit 20 goals. He hit 20 goals on the final game of the year.
Nice.
He had 3 at Christmas.
Insane.
Yeah.
What a turn on.
Yeah.
What the Afterburners engaged. Jesus.
I'm turned on by it. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll cut that. Wow.
No, keep it.
But on top of that, like, it's not just that he's scoring right now.
Yeah.
He's scoring big game goals.
He is. Yeah.
That, like, if we're gonna do like a pick your guy who's not a top scorer, not a top 3, I'm taking Garland from the Canucks. Easy to be the game changer.
For me, it's that it's that line, right? Because I mean, that's their third line, right? Lindholm, Joshua, Garland. We'll see if they stay with it. I think they will.
Also, Lindholm as a 3C is nuts.
It can be terrifying. Yeah.
That's disgusting.
For me, my pick for the potential game changer is Dakota Joshua.
I was gonna say if you're not taking.
Yeah, another big power forward type. He's heavy. He hits heavy, and he's got soft hands. He's had a breakout season this year.
He's really found his way around the net. Like, he has really mastered the box out game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, he is making defensemen look stupid when they try and post up on him now, which was not happening previous.
For me, that's their big breaking point. I think if you play the Miller line on the O'Reilly line, I don't think it'll be like the hard match, but I think it'll be a common match.
Yep.
I think that those minutes will be likely a wash. I think that JT Miller has a little bit more to offer in terms of his offensive game at this stage of his career versus where Ryan O'Reilly's at this stage of his career. But Ryan O'Reilly, I mean, he's a Conn Smythe winner. He's a playoff performer, right?
I always am worried about someone who doesn't wear a visor. I'll just say that.
That's fair. And then, I mean, the Pedersen line, you're going to be playing against what is it? The Colton Sissons line. I think you can win those minutes. But really, for me, what it comes down to is that Elias Lindholm, Connor Garland, Dakota Joshua line is going to feast on Nashville's bottom six.
I entirely agree. I think they're just so out to lunch on this. I think it's really going to be a bottom six war. We're going to see a whole lot of depth scoring from the Canucks. And if I had to take a player that was going to be, not a top three, that I would maybe swing from Nashville.
Yeah.
Probably say to watch Zucker or Beauvillier.
Yeah, I think Beauvillier is a good pick. I actually quite like Anthony Beauvillier, even though he did a whole lot of nothing in Vancouver. For me though, I'm taking Luke Shen.
Yeah,
I think that guy, he's won multiple cups. He's a locker room legend, and he just takes care of business in his own crease.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a fair bet. Actually, I really like that pick.
I think this series is going to be awesome. I really do.
I agree. I entirely agree.
I'm going to be at game 2 in Vancouver on Tuesday.
I'm so excited for you.
Oh man, I'm just amped up. So for this one, I'm taking the Canucks in 6, but this is not an easy 6. It's going to be a tough series.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be, one of those short series for me. It's going to be Canucks in 5.
Okay.
But it's going to feel like you played 7.
Yeah.
So you're going to need that time off too.
Right.
Jay?
I'll be going with the Nashville Predators in 6 games.
Jonesy, fuck off.
I honestly not even a huge reasoning. Aside from just the vibes. I don't know, man. The Preds have been humming for a minute. And I feel like I expect the goaltending to even out.
Yeah.
UC Saros hasn't even been very good this year.
No. And he's played a ton.
Demko's been lights out. I feel like if those even out through the course of the series, and I look at Nashville, I think they're just more physical than Vancouver.
Yeah.
And I think that Vancouver thrives off their physicality.
Mm.
And Nashville's one of the only teams that I think does it better than them.
Okay.
But I do worry about that Canucks, the Bluger, Garland. Who else is on that third line? Because these aren't right. But
those aren't right, but I think I don't know. I think that'll be their fourth line.
yeah,
Bluger will be their 4C, I believe. I don't think Amon will stay in the lineup. It'll be Garland and Lindholm on the third line.
yeah,
That worries you? Yeah.
worries me for my Predators.
Yeah, that's right.
But what doesn't for me is Tyler Myers playing big minutes.
Yeah.
Honestly, Nikita Zadorov
Playing big minutes.
Not moved either.
Yeah.
Is Noah Juleson really is really on that top pairing, or is that
No,
just
that'll be Philip Hronik.
right? Okay, that's good to see.
Yeah.
But I will be taking the Predators in 6, strictly off vibes.
Strictly off vibes. I hate to see it. I'll talk to you in a week, Jonesy. Yeah.
All right. Wow.
All right. Let's move on. Edmonton, Los Angeles, the two others in the Pacific.
Another classic.
Another classic. Third straight year of these two meeting in the playoffs. Edmonton won both times. LA, to quote Zadorov earlier this year, doesn't want to play hockey, right? Trap teams are not a new concept. We've talked about that on here, but it's hard to trap McDavid.
Yeah, but if there's any team that could, I would not put it past the Kings at all.
Yeah.
This is an incredibly difficult team. It goes without saying. Everyone complains about them. Every scoring forward has nothing nice to say about the way the Kings play hockey.
Yeah.
Which is a commendment to how good they play hockey.
100%.
Unfortunately, the Trap has been around for like 30 or 40 or 50 years. It's not a new concept.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to score against it, too bad.
Yeah.
Figure it out. If you don't know how to coach against it, maybe you shouldn't be a coach.
Yeah, this is another just super intriguing series. I've been a big Kings rider for this season at least. Their center depth is just horrifying to look at. Anze Kopitar, Philip Deneau, Pierre-Luc Dubois they bring in. Quentin Byfield has been a game changer for them. But you know what? They haven't looked as imposing as I feel like they should lately.
I agree.
And Edmonton's just been on like the heater of all heaters, right? I mean, a couple rough games, like the last 5 or so. I mean, you get cooked by Colorado and stuff, but like games that like just nobody cares about. So I'm not putting too much weight into it at all.
That's fair. My biggest concern for LA is their goaltending.
Yeah.
I think that just with the injuries they've had, with how much they've just had to cobble together what they have,
Yeah.
it's like the goaltending is a product of the defense at this point. Like,
right.
This is one of those teams where you just look at the team structure and you go, yeah, the goaltending's decent because the team's decent, but...
And I like LA's decor. Like I do. I like Mikey Anderson. I like Drew Doughty. I like Gavrikov. I like Matt Roy. I'm really concerned about Edmonton's goaltending. Honestly, I know Stuart Skinner's been great. I know he has been, but we've seen him go so up and down in the past, and I'm waiting for that drop to come. Again, another goalie that's played a ton of games this year. I think he just shaved off that 60-game mark, if I'm not wrong, but not by a lot. 59.
Yeah, it's
Just like Bob by the skin of his teeth.
like you may as well be there at that point, right? Like,
And I mean, you know, I talk about that 60-game mark lots because we haven't seen a goalie play 60 games and win the cup. But the last one to play 58 and win was a guy named Marc-Andre Fleury. You ever heard of him?
the GOAT.
Not exactly a Stuart Skinner comparable, like if in all seriousness, right?
No, and that's not like well, it kind of is, but like that is a knock to Stuart Skinner, but not personal. It's not personal. It's just realistic.
I mean, we're talking about a Hall of Fame goaltender on the other side, right?
Yeah, you can't really be mad about that. And
No.
I mean, the same kind of has to be said for Rittich and Talbot over in LA. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't think that they're gonna be anything uberly special.
Right.
It's, I think the goaltending will be a wash in this series for the most part because I
agree.
think they'll both have equal amounts of brilliance and buffoonery.
Buffoonery.
Buffoonery, yeah, absolutely. I think this is just going to come down to pure scoring at the end of the day, and who can just play their game the best.
Yeah, that's the big one, right? Is who's going to play their game. If LA can play their game, they will do a lot of damage. If Edmonton can play their game and break through, they're moving on. That's what it is, right?
And it's interesting because we talk about it a lot, teams that match other teams' games and teams that don't. These are two teams that could care less what game you're playing. They're going to run their plans.
Yeah.
Edmonton's still going to give it to McDavid at 60 clicks and tell him to go for it.
Yeah.
And LA's still going to just play the trap.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, it's going to be just a battle of the mentalities.
Right. I think this series is going to be incredibly close. It's kind of like when we looked at Carolina and the Islanders and we went, okay, well, what changed from last year?
Right.
I'm looking at this and going, okay, what changed? Well, LA got Pierre-Luc Dubois.
He hasn't played that great for him, but anything can happen in the playoffs.
Anything can happen. Quentin Byfield, they basically added him because he didn't look like he did this year last year. And I mean, the Oilers added Corey Perry and Adam Henrique, right? See, and this game, the stats say that penalties get called a ton early in a series and the whistles get put away later in series, right?
Right. Okay.
So I think Edmonton's going to capitalize early. I think they're going to take a pretty commanding lead in this series, and even as with their elite power play. And then I think it's going to get really hard for LA to get back into it, even though the series will tighten up at the end.
Yeah, I entirely agree. I think that Edmonton will probably go up into like a 3-1 type of lead, and it'll come down to the wire probably because LA is just a team that you can't slouch on.
Yeah.
And they're tough, but I'm giving the edge to Edmonton.
Yeah.
And I also I love Corey Perry, and I love how he's looked, and I think he's just going to tap into something magic.
It'd be nice to see. Yeah,
It's like-
Scory.
Yeah, we need Scory back.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I got Oilers in 7 for this one.
Jay?
I got the Kings in 7.
Kings in 7.
I think that when I look at the Kings, I feel like every single line in D pairing can play. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
very
worried.
fair.
I'm not worried. I don't think there's any liabilities out there.
Right.
I look at Edmonton, and like, I don't love Darnell Nurse, Cody
Yeah, me
Cece
either.
playing big minutes. Did you know that they're actually the second oldest team in the
Edmonton?
league? Yeah,
Wow.
aside from that retirement home in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Like they're just slow. In that bottom 6, Adam Henrique has not moved me as the deadline addition.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think LA can easily make them a one-line team.
Yeah, that's very fair.
And the goaltending's kind of a wash for me.
Yeah.
Talbot's been pretty solid. Skinner's been pretty solid. I'm not going crazy there, but I got the Kings. Third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm. I mean, hey, there is like an aspect here of like, are they just going to get bullied forever?
It's not what we expected.
Yeah.
I mean, LA being the team that they were for so long, it's kind of weird to see them having a tough go against a team consistently.
It's really so interesting because, like, honestly, I feel like the only first round matchup here that LA would lose is the Edmonton one.
I debate
Maybe
that.
maybe like I guess yeah, that might be cap, but I think they'd beat Vegas. I think they'd beat Winnipeg.
I think
they'd beat Vancouver, and I think they'd beat Nashville.
I think they'd beat Dallas. I think they'd beat Vegas. I think they'd lose to Winnipeg and Colorado, to be honest. But
Let's get to Colorado then. Winnipeg, moving over to the Central now. They finish second in the Central. They're going to be playing the third Central team, of course. That's the Colorado Avalanche. This is a really interesting series. Another very interesting goalie matchup where we have the second and third most worked goalies in the league, right? Georgiev's played 63 games this year, and Hellebuck's played 60. I mean, both these guys have gotten absolutely worked by their teams. Both have a lot of offensive firepower.
yeah,
The Jets have been all over the place the last few years.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know.
just this season they've been all over the place.
Yeah, and the Colorado Avalanche, I mean, they're 2 years removed from being Stanley Cup champions. They have a potential Hart winner in Nathan McKinnon, who's been just out of his mind this year.
I mean, they just breathe greatness.
Probably second in Norris voting in Cale Makar.
And if there was ever a team to have like a home ice advantage, it really is Colorado
Yeah.
with the elevation change.
Yeah, 100%, right? They talk about that lots. And I mean, the D group is still pretty intact, right? You have Cale Makar, Devon Toews, Josh Manson. And I mean, there's been a lot of turnover up front. Casey Middlestat has been pretty questionable as of late, and they're kind of like Tampa to me. They're kind of a one-line team, I think.
Yeah, I think that they have a lot of like pump fakes, so
Yeah.
to say. Like they have things in the lineup that make you go, ooh, until you sort of think about it and you're like, ah.
Yeah.
You know, like you're like, oh, Zach Parise. Oh, he's like ancient as hell and coming off injury.
78 years old, yeah.
Casey Middlestat, he has like no playoff experience.
Yeah.
Nichushkin, he was gone for like half the season and in and out of player assistance and barely played last playoffs.
Yeah.
Miles Wood, but also like deteriorating quickly and very one-sided player, like not multi-dimensional. Like there's just not a lot of multifaceted depth here like you see in championship teams.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
And on top of that, to go against them even further is like, it's fine if you don't have a bunch of multifaceted, guys, but then you're falling strictly into a role-playing team, and you have too many guys here that play the same role.
Yeah. 100%.
You got too many guys on one side of the canoe, and you're just going in circles now.
Right. And I mean, if you look over at the Jets, this team's honestly scary. Their winger depth, following this Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, is pretty crazy.
It's insane.
Kyle Connor, Gabe Viardi, Nikolai Ehlers, Tyler Toffoli. That was a deadline addition for them. Mason Appleton, Alex Iafallo, and Sean Monahan has been fantastic for them. He's been fantastic all year. He was great in Montreal to start the year, and he's been great in Winnipeg since.
My thing about Winnipeg is that like they're just so hit and miss.
Yeah.
And I almost want to say it's a coaching issue at this point. You have so much talent in Nikolai Ehlers constantly being misutilized.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. Mark Scheifele's struggling. I would know because I have him on my fantasy team. It's not been his best year, and I've had him every year. And this is a team that, again, I just have always been like, there's not enough center depth. Sure, the wingers are sick, but like, who's giving it to them?
Yeah.
Oh, you have Adam Lowry on the third line, which I like Adam Lowry.
Yeah,
but if I'm building a championship team, I want Adam Lowry on my fourth line.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I
and
agree
Sean
with that.
Monahan's what, 34? He was playing.
He's not that high up there, but he's had so many injury issues, right?
So he may as well be.
Yeah.
And he's playing well over his head. Like, let's not act like we all weren't clutching our pearls and finding something sturdy to lean on when he was playing as well as he did when he got there.
Well, I mean, Montreal got a first-round pick for taking his contract, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think that when you stack that against the experience, sure, Colorado has a young decor, but they're experienced, they're champions, they know what it takes.
Yeah.
They have a game plan, they stick to it, they don't get baited out. Sean Walker's an incredible addition.
Yeah.
He's been scoring as well, like having a contributing scoring defenseman on your second pairing is incredible.
And they have a Nate Dogg. Because, I mentioned that the goalie battle is really similar, but Hellebuck is the superior one, right? We can all agree on that.
Oh, for sure. If there's anyone, and I mean, Hellebuck is so good. He is elite.
Yeah.
Statistically the best inside of 10 feet in the league.
Right.
Like his reaction time is bar none the best.
Yeah.
And that's where we see so many of these playoff goals scored again.
Yeah.
It's either redirections from the point or mad scrambles.
See, and the only thing that scares me about that is when you're playing against Cale Makar.
Yeah.
He can generate from up high, right?
And he's so quick. He's so explosive. He can step into that slot.
Yeah.
And get the shot through the screen so fast.
I'm going to be real, though. I think one team here is decidedly deeper. They have the decidedly better goalie, and they've been decidedly better down the stretch. I'm taking the Jets in 6, and I think it's a quick 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I think that Colorado I was riding high on Colorado this year. I thought they were back. I think they go the same way they went against the Kraken last year. I don't think Casey Middlestat makes enough of a difference, and I think that the one line is not going to be enough for Colorado.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
That's very fair. I don't think it's Colorado's year. I have to agree with you there, but I don't think that they are a first-round bounce. I got the Avs in 6, and I think it'll be a slow 6. I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth, 1-0, 1-1, 2-1,
Sure.
2-2. It'll be a limp to the finish.
Yeah.
And it'll be worth watching, but it's going to be some incredibly boring hockey, I feel. Like there's going to be a lot of like stymied action. Like it's just going to be a lot of back and forth neutral zone.
That's fair. I think what McCarr and McKinnon will make magic happen, but just them.
That's fair. And I have zero faith in Scheifele to be magical when the
that's
pressure's on. I don't know. I don't feel it this year.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like Scheifele. It's just I don't feel it from his game this year.
Right.
Doesn't look hungry enough.
Jonesy?
Jay?
I got the Jets wiping the floor
Woo!
with the Avalanche in 5 games.
5 games.
I'm looking at these lines now.
Yeah.
This might be the worst bottom 9 forwards in the playoffs.
Yeah. Zach Parise, Miles Wood, Ross Colton, Brandon Duhaime,
Ooh.
Cogliano, Chris Wagner, Yakov Trenin.
Jack Johnson, Caleb Jones pairing. Ooh.
Ugh.
Gorgiev. Ooh.
Yeah.
And like I look at the Jets, they got a lot of cohesiveness in their D pairings. I think they've had the same D pairings the entire year.
Yeah.
Far deeper forward group. I think McKinnon, McCarr, Rannon, they're good enough to get 1, but
That's it.
it'll just be 1.
It'll just be 1. That's a hot take. I like that take.
It's bold. I like it. We needed something bold.
All right, let's move on to the final one here, and I actually have an update that just came into my phone. Mark Stone, full participant at practice. that just came in.
I hate it here.
What a time to be alive.
To the shock of absolutely nobody.
The Vegas Golden Knights get in with Wildcard 2, which is really something. And they're going to play the leaders of the Central, the Dallas Stars. This is their 3rd meeting in the past 5 years. Dallas beat Vegas on the way to the finals in the bubble in 2020. Vegas beat Dallas on the way to their cup last year.
It's gonna be a really nice showdown. I'm excited for it, but I'm still so pissed. I just
It's just so ridiculous.
what the hell, man?
You can't keep getting away with it.
I just
This is going to be a great series, though. Like, Vegas has finally, over the last month or so, looked like that Vegas team, right? Not quite to the same level that they were at last year, but they're showing signs of being that team, right?
100%. And also, equally as importantly as getting their step back, they got their second goalie back.
Yeah, they did.
Which is so crucial to the identity of this team, much like Boston, where it's a win by committee, next man up mentality.
Yeah.
And now you have that next man up, and you can split the crease if you need to.
Right.
And I kind of expect them to a little bit. Not 50-50, but I'm sure that we'll see an Adin Hill start at least one time in the first round.
See, my biggest question mark here isn't Mark Stone.
Okay.
It's Alex Pietrangelo.
Really?
Where's he at? We don't know when he's coming back. This team doesn't win the cup last year or this year without Alex Pietrangelo.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
he's a difference maker for sure.
And he's their number 1 defenseman.
Yeah.
Where's he at? Yeah, let's see what the update is. Yeah, he's
Illness?
still not skating. Yeah, still not skating.
COVID maybe?
Something.
Mm.
Something. I mean, Noah Hannafin, don't get me wrong, is great. But I mean, that's their guy.
Yeah, that's a guy you need. Honestly, my biggest question mark was Mantha.
That's fair. I think he's like more of like he's like a secret weapon, you know?
Yeah, he's a background participant for sure, but
Yeah.
he's kind of a background participant you need to see.
Well, especially because Vegas has been such a all four lines are dangerous team. You do need to be clicking in that bottom six, right?
100%. And he's looked great since he's gotten there. He's had a huge resurgence, but he just left with an injury.
Yeah.
He should be back in time for the playoffs.
Yeah.
But just makes me a little nervous, a guy with that kind of injury issues, if it's not something bigger and he's just rushing back, and if that will affect his performance.
Yeah.
Because he has been a big difference maker.
Yeah.
With multiple 2-point nights since he's joined the team.
100%. I mean, their D group is great. Obviously, there's not a lot of turnover there besides Pietrangelo, but I mean, you have Nick Hague, Braden McNabb still, Shea Theodore, Zach Whitecloud, Alec Martinez. Nothing wrong with any of that. Their center depth obviously got better with adding Thomas Hurdle. If you have William Karlsson playing the way he can on your third line, that's horrifying.
And I mean, Mark Stone's back, so
Mark Stone's back,
yeah, whatever. Like, here we are.
But on the other side, we have the Dallas Stars. And the Dallas Stars are also a problem. It's crazy that one of these teams is going to be a first-round exit, you know?
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate thing about the playoffs is sometimes the matchups you beg for, you just don't see.
Well, and that's why you kind of gotta play in the regular season. Like, I'm sorry to Vegas, but like they kind of sandbagged half this year. They deserve that wildcard 2 spot.
100%.
It's tough luck for Dallas that you win your division and this is what you get. Win your conference and this is what you get.
Yeah, you have to play the biggest crooks in the league.
Yeah. So I mean, this team. I mean, we talked about them a couple weeks ago. Their top 9, in my opinion, is probably the best top 9 in the league. You got Jason Robertson, Roope Hintz, Joe Pavelski. Pavelski's still defying time. Mason Marchment, Matt Duchene, and Tyler Seguin on your second line. They've all been great this year. And then that Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnston, Logan Stankoven line, I think is the difference maker. You got Jamie Benn running with the kids.
And looking good and useful.
Yes.
He's engaged. He's not just useless out there and being an agitator.
Well, that's the thing, right? You put a guy like that at his age with, other guys in his kind of mold, and the line's going to look really slow. But you have a guy that, like, I mean, look, we're not big Jamie Benn fans over here, but he's a hockey intelligent player, and you put him with these 2 young players that have been electric
and are arguably slightly undersized. And Jamie Benn is a mean dude.
Big boy.
He's a big boy and a mean dude.
Even having Evgeny Dadonov down on your 4th line, I mean, this team's ridiculous up front.
Yeah, that's cold. And I really do like Faxa. Faxa is a fourth C is also really nice.
And on the back end too, Thomas Harley's been great this year. We've talked about their decor when they added Chris Tanev, who's gotten even better. His stats have been better in Dallas than they were in Calgary this year, and he was great in Calgary this year.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Tanev is arguably the player to watch, I think.
Yeah.
Like if we're going to do that not top thing again, if he's able to shut down that second and third Vegas line, cooked.
They're over.
Cooked. Done.
Yeah.
But I can't look past that Hurdle acquisition.
Yeah.
That is such a good player.
It is. It is such a good player.
Like, what an addition. What an addition.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's genuinely crazy.
And yeah, with Stone back, where will he slot in? Where will these lines shake out? I think they're too flexible is the thing. Like, they have the opposite issue as the teams we talked about previous, which is that everyone here's multifaceted. They're not like super knock your socks off, like top of the rung type guys.
Right.
But they all do what they do really well, and they can do a lot of things.
Yeah, totally.
So you have so much flexibility, whereas like some teams, it's like, oh, that line doesn't work. Too bad. Keep running it. Right. It'll work. It has to work. With these guys, it's like, oh, that's not working. Okay, like you sit, you go. You know,
we'll just do whatever needs to happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're tired. You got hurt that shift. That's fine. Sit down. Take an extra 2 minutes. Like they have so much ability to not be handcuffed by their players.
Yeah.
Whereas like I think Dallas is kind of stuck there though, where like their lines are gonna be their lines, and if they lose someone, they're gonna get handcuffed.
For sure.
Everyone in that team plays a role. They play it so damn well.
Yeah.
But they're just not as multifaceted. They're not as flexible. And it's the playoffs. Something's going to go wrong. Someone's going to get hurt. Something's not going to work.
Right.
How are you going to adapt? Can they adapt?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, Jake Ottinger's been worked.
He hasn't. I actually think that he's a little bit of their difference maker. Honestly, I think that we've seen him get worked over and over again, and it's been why they've lost. And he hasn't been this year. He didn't hit 60 games.
He hit 54, though.
He hit 54. That's fine. I have no problem with a goalie playing 54, 55 games. He's top, what is that? He's 11th in goals saved above expected per 60. Oh, he's 11th in games played. What is he? He's actually, like, he's had a bit of a weaker year on paper. He's 34th, but that's including guys that haven't played a ton of games. Minimum of 16 games, yeah. Okay. He hasn't been fantastic this year, but he is more rested than he's been in years past. I think he could explode.
Yeah. Maybe. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I think he's good. He's played very good this year, but I just don't think it's the year that we're going to see a Jake Ottinger slap the backpack on and carry this team over the hump. I just think that, I mean, I will say that his expected goals against versus his actual goals against is quite impressive.
They have the second fewest high danger chances against the Dallas Stars.
See, and that's what worries me.
Yeah.
Because sure, Ottinger looks good, above average, but he's also seeing a lot less of those chances.
Yeah, because, I mean, their D group doesn't allow them.
But, I mean, this is Vegas we're talking about, and you're going to give them 4 to 6 swings at you to figure it out. And we just talked about how they're so flexible and so able to problem solve and work around whatever apparent issues may arise. It just seems like something that it could borderline be insurmountable for Dallas, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
I just think Dallas is a one-trick pony. That's the way I'll sum it up.
I genuinely could not agree less with you on that. I think that Dallas is, that forward group, I think, is so versatile.
Yeah. I'm biased, though. I'm biased.
I think this is going to be a close one. It is going to be a close one. These are two absolute heavyweights. Dallas is going to get a home field advantage if they take this the distance. I got them in 7.
Yeah, fair enough. I got the Knights in 6. I don't know. I'm biased. I don't believe in Jamie Benn. I don't believe in Tyler Seguin. Logan Stankoven's young. Robertson's doing a lot better, but he's still young. He's got to figure out how to play a little bit more gritty. Yeah. I just think that this is the Knights series to win again. They cheated their way into the playoffs. They cheated their way into the They cheated their way around the salary cap, and yeah, buckle up. It's going to be a sickening ride.
Yeah.
Jay?
I got the Dallas Stars in 7.
My man.
I'm a bit worried.
Yeah.
Because, spoiler, I do have the Dallas Stars winning the Cup. But this is the series that concerns me the most. An important note that I found is that Dallas is the number 1 rush offense.
Okay.
And Vegas is a very good rush defense.
Interesting.
So that's going to be whoever wins that
might
could
take
very
the
well
series.
win the series.
Yeah.
But I love Dallas, man. Like,
me too.
all three of their D pairings,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I think every line can play for sure. Every line can defend too.
Yeah.
And like, it's hard to nitpick Vegas with how stacked they are, but they don't have, Thomas Hurdle doesn't have the cohesiveness
With the
with
group.
Vegas yet.
Yeah.
So like, we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
I just think the Stars pull out a close one. Great series.
Yeah. This should be a great series. So to cap this off today, this is the end. That's all 8 series.
We made it.
We made it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Let's cap this off by, looking at the finales of our brackets here. Obviously, it ends with wherever this first round goes. But why don't we caption the paths that we have our cup finalists going on?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, take this with a grain of salt because, if we're wrong on our first rounds, then none of this will matter.
Yeah.
But for funsies, so you
Yeah.
guys can play along with us at home, do your own DHL bracket challenge or a Stick Talk bracket challenge.
There you go.
Do your own Stick Talk bracket challenge.
Yeah.
All right. So in my second round matchups, I got the Knights against the Avs. I'm taking the Avs. I think that's the end of the road for the Knights, and I'm hoping so because I'm tired of watching them cheat.
Yeah.
Then I got the Oilers Nucks. I'm taking the Nucks. Go to the East. I got Tampa Boston. Taking Boston over that one. I got Rags Canes. I'm taking the Canes over the Rags. Again, Rags are fraudulent. Canes got them big nuts.
Yeah.
Conference final in the East. I'm taking the Canes over the Bees.
Ugh.
I don't want to see what everyone's foreshadowing lately, which has been the Canucks Bruins.
No, God.
And as far as Avs Canucks go, I'm taking the Canucks. I think this is their year until they run into the Canes. I'm so sorry. I have the Canes winning the cup against the Canucks.
Two Jim Rutherford teams that both fought tooth and nail for Jake Gensel.
He could be the piece that changes everything.
How crazy would that be?
If you, it might be one of the first times that you can pinpoint, like, because you can do it with cup winners, where you can pinpoint a trade and be like, that was what changed their year.
Right.
That was why they won.
Right.
But I don't think I've ever recalled it happening where those two teams meet in the finals that were dueling over that same player.
And you could also say that's why that team lost.
Exactly. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you got?
So I honestly had a pretty similar route. I have the Canucks beating Nashville and then beating the Oilers and facing the Stars in the final. The Stars beating the Jets in the West. So yeah, I have them going to the finals in the West there. I think that the Leafs will face Florida in the second round, and that's where the Bobrovsky luck will run dry. And so Toronto will be going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I have two Canadian teams in the conference finals this year. I have the same run as you, though. On the other end, I got the Rags running into the Hurricanes, and the Hurricanes winning that series. I think, fraudulent team. And then I have the Canes beating Toronto. Sorry, Leafs fans, but that's the end of the road for you. But hey, I let you beat Boston this year, so it's okay. But then, hey, I'm a Canucks guy at heart. The Canucks are winning that series against Carolina in the finals. That's just what's going to happen. Carolina just don't want it like Vancouver does. That's what it comes down to.
And hey, I mean, if there was ever a year, like, I'm a big believer in not picking your team for the bracket challenge. I think it's bad luck. And also just like, what are the odds? Come on.
Yeah.
But if there was ever a year to put your team as the bracket winner,
This is the year.
I'm with you there.
I mean, look, Dom Luszczyszyn, probably the best model in all of hockey right now. He has him with the third best chance to win the cup. That's actually really something.
And I will say it was a really, really tough pick over my finals. Like, I hummed and hawed on that for quite some time.
Finals Demko. Just wait.
Yowa. All right,
Jonesy.
Jay.
Jonesy brought out the handwritten
Yeah,
bracket. I love it.
a little classy.
Yeah.
I got the Dallas Stars, as previously mentioned, winning the cup.
Yeah.
I got them running through the Jets pretty easily in the second round.
Yeah.
And then I got them matching up with the Kings in the conference finals.
Okay.
I think the Kings run out of gas a little bit by that time.
Yeah.
As far as East goes, I kind of have the Canes cruising.
Cruising and bruising.
I got them in 6 over the Rangers. I do have the Bruins over the Panthers in the second round.
Yeah.
It's a little bold. We'll talk about it when the time comes.
We'll talk about it.
And then also kind of bold, I have the Canes winning conference finals games and making it to the finals,
Right.
where I have the Stars getting the best of them.
In 6. So all three of us have the Canes coming out of the East.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's interesting.
That's very interesting. Okay. Well, I believe that's it for us.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. That was a
Yeah.
long podcast.
The first round is locked in. It starts today for us. I mean, by the time this comes out, hopefully we'll get it out tomorrow or Monday. Enjoy it. It's the best time of the year.
It's so exciting, and we got some original 6 matchups to just go home and immediately crack a cold one too. I can't name something better than sitting down and watching Leafs Bruins at 4 p.m. I mean 7 p.m. for some of you guys that are back east, but
Sure.
whatever. But 4 p.m. the time is right. The sun is out. The birds are chirping.
Hockey night in Canada.
Let's go.
Let's go. As always, I'm Tiko.
I'm yours truly.
Keep your dang head up.
Keep your head up. Boom.
Stick talk. Stick talk.